Part 1. In the year 2147, humanity had reached further into space than ever before. For decades, people dreamed of exploring the stars, and now it was finally happening. Spacecraft traveled to distant planets, moons, and asteroids, searching for resources, signs of life, or anything that could help Earth thrive. Among those explorers was Alex Carter, a calm and resourceful astronaut who loved his job more than anything else. Alex wasn't famous. He wasn't a hero or someone people talked about on the news, but he was good at what he did. His crewmates trusted him because he always stayed cool under pressure. Whether it was fixing a broken engine in zero gravity or figuring out how to stretch food rations during long missions, Alex handled everything with quiet confidence. That's why no one thought twice when he volunteered to investigate the strange object floating near Saturn's rings. It started as a routine mission. The crew of the spaceship Odyssey had been sent to study Saturn's moons for possible mining operations. While scanning the area, they spotted something unusual, a massive, jagged structure drifting silently through space. At first glance, it looked like an asteroid, but closer inspection revealed smooth surfaces and intricate designs etched into its metallic shell. It didn't belong there. It wasn't natural. Someone or something had built it. The captain decided to send Alex out alone to take a closer look. Equipped with a small exploration pod and a camera to document his findings, Alex approached the mysterious object cautiously. As he drew nearer, the surface shimmered faintly, almost like it was alive. Strange symbols glowed softly along the edges, pulsating in rhythm, as if breathing. Alex felt a chill run down his spine, though he couldn't explain why. Something about this thing felt wrong. "Alex, do you copy?" came the voice of Commander Lisa Hayes over the comms. She sounded tense, her words clipped. "What are you seeing?" "It's definitely not an asteroid," Alex replied, keeping his tone steady despite the unease growing inside him. "There are markings all over it, patterns I've never seen before. It looks artificial." Before Lisa could respond, the lights on the object flared brightly, blinding Alex momentarily. He shielded his eyes and tried to back away, but the pod's controls froze. Panic bubbled up in his chest as he realized he was trapped. Then, without warning, tendrils of light shot out from the object, wrapping around the pod like glowing vines. They pulled him toward the structure with terrifying speed. "Commander, I'm losing control," Alex shouted, gripping the controls tightly, even though they were useless now. "Something's got me." Static crackled over the comms, drowning out Lisa's frantic replies. The last thing Alex saw before darkness swallowed him was the gaping maw of the structure opening wide, revealing a cavernous interior filled with eerie blue light. Then everything went black. When Alex woke up, he found himself lying on a cold, hard surface. The air smelled metallic, sharp and unpleasant. Blinking against the harsh glare of overhead lights, he slowly sat up and took stock of his surroundings. He was in some kind of chamber, its walls curving inward like the inside of a giant egg. Everything shimmered faintly, giving the impression that the room itself was alive. Standing nearby were creatures unlike anything Alex had ever imagined. Tall and slender, their bodies gleamed with a silvery sheen, and thin veins of electric blue pulsed beneath their skin. Their faces were smooth and featureless, except for two large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly. They moved with unnatural grace, their limbs bending at angles that seemed impossible for living beings. One of them stepped forward, towering over Alex, its head tilted slightly, studying him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. Though it didn't speak, Alex somehow understood that this creature was in charge. It radiated authority, commanding respect or fear. "What do you want from me?" Alex asked, his voice hoarse. He tried to sound brave, but the tremor in his words betrayed his nerves. The creature didn't answer. Instead, it raised a long, spindly arm, and suddenly Alex felt a sharp pain in his temples. Images flooded his mind, flashes of Earth, cities, burning, people screaming. He gasped, clutching his head as the visions intensified. When they finally stopped, he collapsed to his knees, panting. "They're testing you," said another voice, soft and melodic. Startled, Alex turned to see a second alien standing behind him. This one looked different. Its body was shorter, less imposing, and its glowing veins pulsed more slowly. Its expression, if it could be called that, seemed almost curious. "Testing me? For what?" Alex demanded, struggling to his feet. His legs wobbled, but he forced himself to stand. Tall. He wouldn't let these things intimidate him. "To see if you're worth keeping," the second alien replied. "Or if you're just another weakling." Alex frowned. "Weakling? You don't know anything about me." The taller alien made a sound that might have been laughter, though it came out more like a series of clicking noises. Then it gestured toward a doorway, and the shorter alien grabbed Alex by the arm, leading him forcefully out of the chamber. As they walked, Alex noticed other rooms filled with strange equipment machines that hummed and sparked, tanks filled with swirling liquid, and pods containing shadowy figures that twitched and moaned. Whatever this place was, it wasn't just a ship. It was a laboratory. And Alex had a sinking feeling he was about to become its latest experiment. Despite the fear gnawing at him, Alex refused to give in. He clenched his fists and set his jaw, vowing silently to survive whatever horrors awaited him. These aliens thought they could break him, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Little did they know, their decision to capture Alex Carter would prove to be the biggest mistake they'd ever made. Part 2. The aliens led Alex into a new chamber, one that felt even colder and more oppressive than the last. The walls glowed faintly with shifting patterns of light, like they were alive and watching him. In the center of the room stood a strange device, a large, circular platform surrounded by glowing pillars. The shorter alien pushed Alex onto the platform, then stepped back to join the taller one. Both creatures stared at him silently, their glowing eyes unblinking. Alex clenched his fists and took a deep breath. He didn't know what was coming next, but he knew it wouldn't be pleasant. "What are you going to do to me?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside him. The taller alien tilted its head slightly, as if considering the question. Then it raised a slender arm, and the room began to change. The lights dimmed until everything was pitch black. Alex couldn't see his own hands in front of his face. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of his own breathing. At first, Alex thought this was some kind of punishment, leaving him alone in the dark to make him feel helpless. But then he realized something worse. The aliens weren't just taking away his sight. They were isolating him completely. No sounds, no smells, no sense of touch beyond the cold surface beneath his feet. It was as if the world had vanished, leaving him floating in an endless void. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Time lost all meaning in the darkness. Alex tried to stay calm, focusing on his breathing and counting slowly in his head. But the emptiness pressed down on him, heavier with each passing moment. Memories began to creep in, unwanted and vivid. He thought about his childhood, his parents, his friends. He remembered moments of failure, times when he doubted himself. The aliens weren't just testing his body, they were trying to break his mind, but Alex refused to let them win. He closed his eyes, even though it made no difference in the darkness, and focused on something positive. He pictured Earth, the blue-green planet he called home. He thought about the smell of fresh rain, the warmth of sunlight on his skin, the sound of laughter. These small, simple things gave him strength. They reminded him of who he was and why he couldn't give up. Finally, after what felt like an impossible eternity, the lights returned. Alex blinked rapidly, adjusting to the sudden brightness. The alien stood nearby, watching him intently. The taller one made a clicking noise, and the shorter one gestured for Alex to step off the platform. Though his legs felt weak, Alex forced himself to move with confidence. He wouldn't let them see how much the experience had shaken him. The next test came quickly. This time, Alex found himself in a large arena-like space. The floor was covered in sand, and holographic projections flickered to life around him. Suddenly, he was surrounded by shadowy figures, warriors armed with weapons that crackled with energy. They moved toward him slowly, their glowing eyes locked on his every step. Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He glanced around, searching for a way out, but there was none. The aliens wanted to see how he would react under pressure, so he had no choice but to fight. One of the holographic warriors lunged at him, swinging a blade-like weapon. Alex ducked, just in time, feeling the heat of the weapon as it passed over his head. Adrenaline surged through him, sharpening his senses. He grabbed a piece of debris from the ground, a jagged chunk of metal, and used it to block another attack. The warriors were fast, but Alex was quicker. He dodged and weaved, using the environment to his advantage. When one of them stumbled, he struck back, smashing the metal shard into its glowing core. The projection shattered, disappearing in a burst of light. The remaining warriors closed in, forcing Alex to think faster. He spotted a control panel on the wall behind them and made a split-second decision. Instead of fighting directly, he feinted left, drawing their attention, then sprinted toward the panel. With a few quick taps, he overloaded the system, causing the entire arena to short-circuit. Sparks flew, and the holograms dissolved into thin air. Panting heavily, Alex turned to face the aliens. They stood silently, their glowing eyes fixed on him. For the first time, he thought he saw something resembling surprise in their expressions. Clearly, they hadn't expected him to adapt so quickly. Over the next several days or perhaps weeks, Alex endured more tests, each one designed to push him to his limits. There were simulations of extreme weather conditions, forcing him to survive blistering heat and freezing cold. There were puzzles that required him to solve complex problems under time constraints. And there were moments of physical pain, inflicted by devices that emitted sharp bursts of energy. Through it all, Alex held on to one thing: his determination. He reminded himself constantly that giving up wasn't an option. Every time the aliens thought they had broken him, he found a way to keep going. Sometimes it was sheer willpower that kept him moving. Other times, it was the memory of Earth, the people waiting for him, the life he wanted to return to. One day, during a particularly brutal session, Alex noticed something important. The aliens weren't perfect. Their technology, while advanced, had flaws. During a test involving a maze of laser beams, Alex observed tiny inconsistencies in the patterns. The beams didn't always align perfectly, leaving brief gaps that could be exploited. Though the aliens monitored him closely, they couldn't anticipate every move he made. This realization gave Alex hope. If he could find weaknesses in their systems, maybe he could turn them against the aliens. It was a risky plan, but it was better than doing nothing. As the tests continued, Alex paid closer attention to the details, memorizing the layout of the ship and noting any vulnerabilities he could use to his advantage. Between sessions, Alex was kept in a small cell with barely enough room to sit or lie down. The walls were smooth and featureless, offering no distractions. But one day, as he sat in silence, he heard a faint sound, a soft tapping coming from the other side of the wall. At first, he thought it might be his imagination, but then it came again, more deliberate this time. "Hello?" Alex whispered, pressing his ear against the wall. A voice answered, quiet but clear. "You're not alone." Alex's heart leapt. Someone else was here, another prisoner. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Lily," the voice replied. "I've been here for months. I don't know why they took me, but they keep running tests, trying to break me." Alex swallowed hard. They're doing the same thing to me. But I'm not going to let them win. Lily hesitated before responding. Neither am I, maybe. Maybe we can help each other. For the first time since his capture, Alex felt a spark of hope. He didn't know how yet, but he was determined to find a way out, not just for himself, but for Lily too. Together, they might stand a chance against the aliens. All they needed was a plan. As Alex sat in the darkness of his cell, he began to piece together the fragments of an idea. The aliens thought they were in control, but they had underestimated him. Little did they know, their experiments were only making him stronger. Part 3. Alex and Lily continued their secret conversations through the thin wall that separated their cells. At first, they shared only basic information: names, how long they'd been held, and bits of what the aliens had done to them. But as trust grew between them, their talks became more detailed. They began discussing escape plans, piecing together everything they knew about the ship and its systems. Lily explained that she had tried escaping once before. She had managed to sneak into a restricted area by following the routine movements of the aliens. But when she reached a control panel, she couldn't decipher the strange symbols glowing on its surface. The language was unlike anything she'd ever seen, and without understanding it, she couldn't manipulate the ship's systems. Before she could figure it out, the aliens caught her and dragged her back to her cell. I thought I was done for, Lily admitted, her voice trembling even though Alex couldn't see her face. But they didn't punish me, not really. They just threw me back here and kept testing me like nothing happened. Alex frowned as he listened. He had noticed the same alien symbols during his own time aboard the ship. They glowed faintly on walls, doors, and control panels, shifting and rearranging themselves in patterns that seemed almost alive. To him, they looked like puzzles waiting to be solved, and puzzles were something Alex was good at. I think I can help with that, Alex said confidently. I've been paying attention to those symbols. They repeat in sequences, like a code. If we can find a way to access one of those panels again, maybe I can crack it. Lily hesitated before responding. It's risky. The aliens are always watching. If they catch us. They won't, Alex interrupted firmly. We'll be careful. And if we don't try, we're stuck here forever. Over the next few days, Alex and Lily worked together to gather information. Whenever the aliens moved them from their cells for tests or medical scans, they memorized the layout of the corridors, noting guard positions and security measures. Alex paid close attention to the timing of patrols, while Lily focused on identifying weak points in the ship's structure. Together, they built a mental map of the vessel. One day, during a simulated combat test, Alex spotted an opportunity. The aliens had placed him in a large chamber filled with holographic enemies, just like before. But this time, Alex noticed something different. A maintenance hatch high up on one of the walls. It was small and partially hidden, but it looked accessible if he could reach it. As the holograms closed in, Alex pretended to struggle, dodging their attacks and drawing their attention away from the hatch. When the moment was right, he sprinted toward the wall and leapt onto a low ledge, using it to climb higher. His heart raced as he stretched for the hatch, fingers brushing against its smooth surface. Finally, he managed to pry it open and slip. Inside, the narrow passage beyond the hatch was dark and cramped, but Alex didn't care. For the first time since his capture, he felt free, even if only for a moment. He crawled forward cautiously, listening for any signs of pursuit. After several minutes, he reached a junction where two tunnels intersected. One led downward toward what looked like an engine room, while the other spiraled upward, ending at a locked door. Alex pressed his ear against the door and heard faint voices on the other side. One of them sounded familiar. It was Lily. Taking a deep breath, Alex tapped lightly on the metal surface. A moment later, he heard her respond. Alex, is that you? It's me, he whispered back. Stand back, I'm going to try opening this. Using the skills he'd honed during his observations, Alex examined the control panel beside the door. The glowing symbols shifted erratically, but he focused on their rhythm, searching for patterns. Slowly, he began pressing combinations, trusting his instincts. The panel hummed softly, and after a few tense seconds, the door slid open. Lily stood. On the other side, her eyes wide with disbelief. She looked thinner than Alex imagined, her face pale and drawn from months of captivity. But there was fire in her gaze, a determination that matched his own. "You actually did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're not done yet," Alex replied. "Come on, we need to move." Together, they slipped into the corridor, sticking to the shadows as they made their way deeper into the ship. Their goal was simple: find a way to disable the alien systems temporarily, giving them enough time to locate an escape pod. But achieving that goal wouldn't be easy. Every step they took felt like walking on thin ice, with danger lurking around every corner. As they moved, Alex explained his plan. "These aliens rely on their technology, not just for weapons, but for everything. If we can sabotage their systems, even for a short time, it might give us a chance." "But how?" Lily asked. "Their tech is so advanced. We don't even understand half of it." "We don't need to understand all of it," Alex countered. "Just enough to mess it up. Look for anything that looks important: control panels, power conduits, anything like that." They continued exploring until they stumbled upon a room filled with humming machinery. Thick cables snaked across the floor, connecting various devices to a central console. The air smelled sharp and metallic, and the lights pulsed faintly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "This has to be important," Alex muttered, stepping closer to the console. He studied the symbols glowing on its surface, his mind racing, as he tried to decode their meaning. Beside him, Lily kept watch, her eyes darting nervously toward the doorway. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a low rumble echoed through the room. Alex froze, his hand hovering over the console. "Did you hear that?" Before Lily could answer, a voice spoke behind them, not human, but melodic and soft. "You shouldn't be here." They turned sharply to see another alien standing in the doorway. Unlike the others they'd encountered, this one was smaller, with softer features and glowing veins that pulsed slowly. Its expression, if it could be called that, was calm, almost curious. "Who are you?" Alex demanded, instinctively stepping in front of Lily. "My name is Zinara," the alien replied. "And I am not your enemy." Alex narrowed his eyes, unsure whether to trust the creature. "Why should we believe you?" "Because I have seen what my people are doing," Zinara said. "They treat beings like you as experiments, as tools to be used and discarded. I do not agree with their methods." Lily glanced at Alex, uncertain. "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." "The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice." Part 4. The escape pod shot away from the alien ship, jolting Alex and Lily as it entered the cold emptiness of space. The small vessel was cramped, its walls lined with blinking lights and control panels that neither of them fully understood. Outside the narrow window, they could see the glowing remains of the alien ship fading into the distance. Explosions rippled across its surface like angry fireworks before it finally collapsed in on itself, consumed by the chaos Alex had unleashed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They sat in silence, catching their breath and processing what had just happened. Their escape felt surreal, like something out of a dream. But the bruises on their bodies, the lingering smell of smoke in the air, and the faint hum of the pod's engines reminded them that this was very real. "We made it," Lily whispered, breaking the quiet. Her voice trembled, but there was a note of awe in it. She turned to Alex, her eyes wide. "You actually did it." Alex leaned back against the seat, his hands still gripping the edges tightly. He didn't feel like celebrating yet. "Not entirely," he said, his tone cautious. "We're not safe until we get back to Earth, and even then." He trailed off, his mind racing ahead. The aliens who had captured them were gone for now, but there might be others. If the Valith had been willing to abduct humans for experiments, what would stop another species from doing the same? Humanity wasn't ready for threats like this. They had barely scratched the surface of deep space exploration, and already they were vulnerable. Lily seemed to sense his unease. "You're thinking about what comes next, aren't you?" "Yeah," Alex admitted. "This isn't over. Even if we survive today, we need to warn Earth. People need to know what's out here." Lily nodded slowly. "And Zinara. Do you think she'll be okay?" Alex hesitated before answering. He didn't know much about the rogue alien scientist who had helped them, but he couldn't shake the image of her standing alone on the doomed ship, watching them leave. "I don't know," he said honestly. "She risked everything to help us. I hope she finds a way to make things right with her people, or at least stay alive." They fell silent again, each lost in their own thoughts. The escape pod drifted through the void, its automated systems guiding it toward the nearest human outpost. It would take hours, maybe days, to reach safety, but for now, they were free. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to creep in. Both Alex and Liliana were physically and emotionally drained. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape was wearing off, leaving them shaky and weak. Still, they forced themselves to stay alert. The last thing they needed was to run into trouble while drifting through space. To pass the time, Alex pulled up a map on one of the pod's screens. It showed their current position relative to Earth and nearby stations. He pointed to a blinking dot labeled Delta Station. "That's where we're headed," he explained. "It's a research outpost. Not heavily armed, but it should have enough resources to get us home." Lily studied the map carefully. "Do you think anyone will believe us when we tell them what happened?" "They'll have to," Alex replied firmly. "We've got proof, the data I downloaded from the alien ship before we escaped. It's not much, but it's enough to show humanity that we're not alone out here, and not everyone is friendly." Lily frowned. "What if they don't listen? What if they think we're crazy or exaggerating?" Alex sighed. "Then we'll make them listen. We can't afford to ignore this. If the Valith come back, or worse, if someone else does, we need to be ready." As they talked, the pod sensors suddenly beeped loudly, startling them both. A red warning light flashed on the dashboard, accompanied by a robotic voice announcing, "Proximity alert. Unidentified object detected." Alex's heart sank. "What now?" he muttered, leaning forward to check the screen. Sure enough, a large shape was approaching rapidly. At first glance, it looked like debris, a chunk of metal floating aimlessly through space, but as it drew closer, details became clearer. It wasn't debris. It was another alien vessel. "Oh no," Lily breathed, gripping the edge of her seat. "Are they following us?" "I don't know," Alex said, his voice tight. "But we can't fight them. All we can do is try to evade." He quickly adjusted the pod's trajectory, steering it away from the incoming ship. The small craft shuddered as it accelerated, but the alien vessel matched their movements effortlessly. Its sleek design and glowing blue veins were unmistakable. It belonged to the Valith. "They're hailing us," Lily said, pointing to a flashing icon on the console. Alex hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. Finally, he pressed the button to open a communication channel. Static crackled for a moment before a familiar voice filled the cabin. It was Kelthur, the leader of the Valith. "You cannot escape," the alien said, its tone cold and commanding. "Your actions have cost my people dearly. You will pay for your defiance." Alex clenched his jaw, refusing to show fear. "You underestimated us," he shot back. "You thought you could break us, but all you did was prove how strong we are." Kelther's response was a low, menacing growl. "Strength means nothing without power. Your primitive technology is no match for ours. Surrender now, or face annihilation." Before Alex could reply, the alien ship fired a warning shot, narrowly missing the pod. The impact sent them spinning wildly, alarms blaring as the tiny craft struggled to stabilize. Alex fought to regain control, sweat dripping down his forehead. He knew they wouldn't survive another direct hit. "Any ideas?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Alex glanced at the controls, his mind racing. Then he remembered something Zenara had told them. The Valith relied heavily on their neural network to operate their ships. If they could disrupt that system, even temporarily, it might give them a chance. "There's a frequency scanner on this panel," Alex said, pointing to a row of buttons. "If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to jam their systems. But how do we know which one to use?" Lily asked. "We guess," Alex replied grimly. "Start pressing buttons. We don't have time to be careful." Working together, they frantically toggled switches and adjusted dials, searching for any sign of interference. The alien ship loomed closer, its weapons charging for another attack. Just as despair began to set in, a loud screech echoed through the cabin. The alien ship shuddered violently, its glowing veins flickering erratically. It worked. "Lily!" exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. "Not for long," Alex warned. "That'll only buy us a few seconds. Keep going." They continued tweaking the settings, pushing the pod's systems to their limits. The alien ship recovered quickly, resuming its pursuit. But the brief disruption gave Alex enough time to plot a risky maneuver. He activated the pod's emergency thrusters, sending them hurtling toward a nearby asteroid field. "This is insane," Lily shouted as rocks whizzed past the windows, narrowly missing them. "It's our only shot," Alex replied, his eyes glued to the screen. "They won't follow us in here." Sure enough, the alien ship slowed down at the edge of the asteroid field, unwilling to risk damage to its delicate structure. As the rocky maze swallowed the pod whole, Alex allowed himself a small smile. For now they were safe. When they finally emerged on the other side of the asteroid field, the alien ship was nowhere to be seen. Delta Station came into view, its rotating rings glowing softly against the blackness of space. Relief washed over Alex and Lily as they approached the station, knowing they were close to sanctuary. But as they docked and stepped onto solid ground for the first time in weeks, Alex felt a weight settle on his shoulders. Their ordeal was far from over. The universe was vast and dangerous, full of wonders and horrors alike. And humanity had only begun to scratch the surface. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Alex vowed silently to face them head on. Because if there was one thing he'd learned from his experience, it was this: no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity's greatest strength was its refusal to give up. Part 5 Delta Station was a stark contrast to the cold alien ship Alex and Lily had just escaped. The outpost was small but functional, with metal walls painted in faded blue and green hues to create a sense of calm. It wasn't designed for comfort, it was built for survival, but after weeks of captivity, it felt like paradise. The air smelled clean, not metallic, and the hum of machinery was soothing rather than oppressive. As soon as they stepped off the escape pod, station personnel surrounded them, their faces a mix of shock and concern. A tall woman with short brown hair approached first. She wore a uniform with patches marking her as Commander Rachel Lawson, the head of Delta Station. "What happened out there?" she asked, her voice firm but not unkind. "Your distress signal barely reached us." Alex exchanged a glance with Lily before answering. He knew their story would sound unbelievable, but he also knew how important it was to tell the truth. "We were captured by aliens," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "They experimented on us. We managed to escape, but their ship was destroyed in the process." Rachel's eyes narrowed slightly, as if trying to decide whether to believe him. "Aliens? What kind of aliens?" "They called themselves the Valith," Lily chimed in. Her tone was softer, almost hesitant, but her expression was resolute. "They looked like biomechanical creatures, silver bodies, glowing veins. They thought humans were weak, so they tested us. But we fought back." The room fell silent for a moment. Some of the station staff exchanged skeptical glances, while others simply stared at Alex and Lily, unsure what to say. Rachel finally broke the tension. "You're lucky to be alive," she said simply. "Come with me. We'll debrief you properly and get you checked out by medical." In the station's briefing room, Alex and Lily recounted everything that had happened, from their capture near Saturn's rings to their daring escape. Rachel listened intently, occasionally jotting notes on a tablet. When they mentioned Zinara, the rogue alien who had helped them, Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You're saying one of them turned against its own kind?" she asked, clearly skeptical. "She did," Alex confirmed. "She didn't agree with what they were doing to us. Without her help, we wouldn't have made it out." Rachel leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against the table. "Even if I wanted to believe you, and I'm not saying I don't, this is going to be hard to prove. The higher-ups won't take your word for it. Do you have any evidence?" Alex nodded and pulled a small data drive from his pocket. "I downloaded information from their systems before we left. It's not much, but it should show you what they're capable of." Rachel took the drive cautiously, examining it as though it might bite. "We'll analyze this immediately. In the meantime, you two need rest. You've been through hell." Later that evening, Alex and Lily sat together in a small lounge area, sipping cups of hot tea provided by the station's kitchen. Neither of them had much of an appetite, but the warmth of the drink was comforting. For the first time since their ordeal began, they allowed themselves to relax, if only a little. "I can't believe we're here," Lily said softly, staring into her cup. "It feels like a dream." "It's real," Alex replied, though his tone lacked conviction. Even now, part of him wondered if he'd wake up back in that cell, trapped in another nightmare. "But we're not done yet. If the Valith come back, or if someone else finds Earth, we need to be ready." Lily sighed. "Do you think anyone will believe us? About the aliens, I mean." "They'll have to," Alex said firmly. "Once they see the data, they won't have a choice. Humanity needs to know what's out there." Before Lily could respond, the door to the lounge slid open, and Commander Rachel entered. Her expression was grim, her usual composure replaced by something closer to urgency. "We analyzed the data," she said without preamble. "It's authentic. These Valith, they're real. And based on what we've seen, they're advanced enough to pose a serious threat." Alex felt a surge of vindication, but quickly pushed it aside. Now wasn't the time to gloat. What happens next? He asked. Rachel hesitated before answering. "We're sending a message to Earth Command. This changes everything. But until reinforcements arrive, and assuming they send any, you're our best source of intel. We'll need your help preparing defenses in case the Valith return." Alex nodded. "We'll do whatever it takes." Over the next few days, Alex and Lily worked closely with Delta Station's crew to fortify its defenses. Using the knowledge they'd gained aboard the alien ship, they identified potential weaknesses in Valith technology and suggested ways to exploit them. Alex focused on adapting the station's weapon systems, while Lily worked with engineers to modify sensor arrays capable of detecting cloaked ships. Their efforts weren't without challenges. Supplies were limited, and morale among the station's staff wavered as the reality of the situation sank in. Many doubted Earth Command would respond quickly or at all. To some, Delta Station felt like a forgotten corner of humanity's reach. Too far away to matter, but Alex refused to let despair take hold. Every time someone questioned whether their work was worth it, he reminded them why they were fighting. "This isn't just about us," he said during one particularly tense meeting. "If the Valith find Earth, billions of lives are at stake. We're the first line of defense. If we give up, no one else stands a chance." His words resonated with many, reigniting their determination. Slowly but surely, the station transformed into a fortress, a fragile one, perhaps, but stronger than it had been before. One evening, as Alex stood on the observation deck overlooking the vast expanse of space, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Lily approaching, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "Thought you could use this," she said, handing him one. "Thanks," Alex replied, taking a sip. The bitter taste was oddly grounding. "Can't sleep either?" Lily shook her head. "Too much on my mind. What if they come back? What if we're not ready?" "We'll be ready," Alex said confidently, though his gaze drifted toward the stars. "And if we're not, well, we'll figure it out. That's what humans do. We adapt, we survive." Lily smiled faintly. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I have to," Alex admitted. "Because if I don't, then what's the point?" They stood in silence for a while, watching the endless stretch of space. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the Valith fleet might still exist, or worse, other threats humanity couldn't yet imagine. But for now, Alex felt a flicker of hope. They had survived the impossible once. Maybe, just maybe, they could do it again. As the lights of Delta Station twinkled faintly against the backdrop of the cosmos, Alex vowed silently to keep fighting, not just for himself or Lily, but for everyone counting on them back home. Whatever came next, humanity wouldn't face it alone. Part 6 days turned into weeks aboard Delta Station, and the sense of urgency only grew stronger. Alex and Lily worked tirelessly alongside the station's crew, preparing for the possibility of another alien attack. The data they had recovered from the Valith ship proved invaluable. It revealed details about their technology, communication methods, and even hints at their weaknesses. But as much as the information helped, it also painted a grim picture. The Valith were far more advanced than humanity, and if they returned, Delta Station wouldn't stand a chance without reinforcements. Commander Rachel Lawson maintained constant contact with Earth Command, sending updates and pleading for assistance. Her messages grew increasingly desperate, but the response was always the same. Help was on the way, though no one knew exactly when or if it would arrive. The isolation weighed heavily on everyone, especially Alex and Lily, who understood better than anyone what was at stake. One evening, while Alex was reviewing sensor logs in the control room, an alarm blared suddenly, startling him. Red lights flashed across the walls, and a robotic voice announced, "Unidentified vessel detected. Approaching at high speed." Alex's heart sank. He rushed to the main console, his fingers flying over the controls. On the screen, a massive shape appeared, a sleek, angular ship eerily similar to the one that had captured him and Lily. It wasn't alone. 2 smaller vessels flanked it like predators circling prey. "Damn it," Alex muttered under his breath. He activated the station-wide alert system. "All hands to battle stations. This isn't a drill." Moments later, Commander Rachel burst into the control room, her face pale but determined. "How many?" she asked sharply. 3 ships. Alex replied. "They're moving fast. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they're within firing range." Rachel nodded grimly. "Prepare the defenses. Divert all power to the shields and weapon systems. And make sure everyone knows this is real, no false alarms this time." As the crew scrambled to follow her orders, Alex turned back to the screen. The alien ships were closing in rapidly, their glowing veins pulsing ominously. For a moment, he felt the same fear that had gripped him during his captivity, but he pushed it aside. This time he wasn't alone. This time he was ready. Lily joined Alex in the control room shortly after, her expression tense but resolute. "What's the plan?" she asked, pulling up a secondary monitor. "We hold them off as long as we can," Alex said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "If we can disable their lead ship, the others might retreat. And if they don't?" Lily pressed. "Then we fight until we can't anymore," Alex replied simply. "But we won't go down without a fight." Together, they coordinated the station's defenses, targeting the weakest points of the alien ships based on the data Alex had recovered. When the first volley of energy beams struck Delta Station's shields, the entire structure shuddered violently. Alarms screamed and sparks flew from overloaded circuits, but the shields held for now. "They're testing us," Rachel said, watching the readouts intently. "Trying to find our weak spots." "Let them try," Alex shot back. "We've been waiting for this." The battle intensified quickly. The Valith ships unleashed wave after wave of attacks, each strike chipping away at the station's defenses. Delta Station retaliated with everything it had: lasers, missiles, even repurposed mining equipment rigged to act as improvised weapons. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the humans fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. At one point, Alex noticed something strange on the radar. One of the smaller alien ships had drifted slightly behind the others, its movements erratic. "That one's damaged," he said, pointing to the screen. "Focus fire there." The crew followed his instructions, concentrating their attacks on the weakened vessel. After several direct hits, the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, debris scattering into the void. Cheers erupted throughout the station, but Alex knew better than to celebrate too soon. "They'll adapt," he warned. "Don't let your guard down." He was right. The remaining two ships adjusted their tactics, launching simultaneous assaults from opposite sides. The station's shields flickered dangerously, and parts of the outer hull began to buckle under the strain. Fires broke out in several sections, forcing emergency teams to scramble and contain the damage. "We can't keep this up much longer," Rachel said through gritted teeth. "Our reserves are almost depleted." Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. There had to be another way. Then he remembered something Zinara had told him. The neural network that controlled the Valith ships was their greatest strength, but also their greatest vulnerability. If they could disrupt it again, just like during their escape, they might have a chance. "There's a frequency scanner in engineering," Alex said suddenly. "If we can broadcast the right signal, we might be able to jam their systems." Rachel hesitated, weighing the risks. "Do you think it'll work?" "It's our only shot," Alex replied. "I'll go. Lily, stay here and keep coordinating the defense." "No way," Lily protested immediately. "You're not going alone." "I need someone I trust to handle things here," Alex insisted. "Please, Lily, I can't do both." After a beat, Lily reluctantly nodded. "Fine, but be careful." Alex sprinted through the corridors, dodging falling debris and smoke-filled hallways. By the time he reached engineering, the room was in chaos. Sparks rained down from exposed wires, and the air reeked of burnt metal. A young engineer named Sam was frantically trying to stabilize the failing power grid. "Sam, I need access to the frequency scanner," Alex said urgently. Now, without hesitation, Sam stepped aside, letting Alex take over the controls. His hands moved quickly, adjusting dials and entering commands. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he searched for the exact frequency needed to disrupt the Valith network. Finally, he found it: a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the station. "This is it," Alex whispered, pressing the activation button. Outside, the effect was immediate. The lead alien ship shuddered violently, its glowing veins flickering erratically. Its movements became jerky and uncoordinated, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The second ship faltered as well, breaking formation and retreating slightly. "Yes!" Alex shouted, pumping his fist in triumph. But his celebration was short-lived. Moments later, the damaged lead ship fired a massive energy beam directly at Delta Station. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the structure, knocking Alex off his feet. When he regained consciousness, Alex found himself lying on the floor, his ears ringing and his vision blurred. Around him, alarms still blared, but the intensity of the attack had lessened. Struggling to his feet, he staggered back to the control room, where Lily and Rachel were huddled over the monitors. "Their leader's ship is crippled," Lily reported, her voice shaking with exhaustion. "But they're regrouping." "They're pulling back for now," Rachel nodded grimly. "We bought ourselves some time. But they'll be back, and next time we might not get so lucky." Alex leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. His body ached, and his mind was clouded with fatigue, but he couldn't afford to rest, not yet. As the adrenaline faded, one thought lingered in his mind. Humanity had survived today, but survival wasn't enough. They needed to prepare for tomorrow and beyond. "We'll be ready," Alex said finally, his voice firm despite the weariness in his tone. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Part 7. The battle had left Delta Station battered and bruised. Smoke filled the corridors, emergency lights flickered weakly, and sections of the outer hull were scorched or outright missing. Crew members moved quickly, tending to injuries, extinguishing fires, and patching up critical systems as best they could. Despite the damage, spirits remained high, at least for now. They had survived an attack from the Valith, a species far more advanced than humanity. That fact alone gave them hope, fragile though it was. Alex sat in the control room, staring at the monitors that showed the emptiness of space outside. The alien ships had retreated, but he knew it wasn't over. The Valith wouldn't give up easily. If anything, their withdrawal was likely temporary, a chance to regroup and return with even greater force. He rubbed his temples, trying to push aside the exhaustion that threatened to overwhelm him. Commander Rachel Lawson entered the room, her face lined with fatigue. She carried a tablet filled with reports on the station's status, but she didn't look at it. Instead, she focused on Alex. "You did good out there," she said simply. "We all did." Alex shook his head. "It's not enough. We got lucky this time, but we can't rely on luck forever." Rachel sighed and pulled up a chair beside him. "You're right. Earth Command finally sent word. They're sending reinforcements, but it'll take weeks for them to get here. Until then, we're on our own." "Weeks?" Alex repeated, his voice tight. "That's too long. If the Valith come back before then, we won't last another hour." Rachel nodded grimly. "I know. Which is why we need to keep improving our defenses, and fast. Every second counts." Over the next few days, Alex, Lily, and the rest of the crew worked around the clock to fortify Delta Station. Using what little resources they had left, they reinforced the shields, repaired damaged weapon systems, and set traps in the surrounding area, mines and decoys, designed to slow down any approaching ships. Alex spent hours poring over the data he'd recovered from the Valith ship, searching for anything they might have missed. Each new discovery fueled his determination, but it also deepened his fear. The Valith were relentless, and their technology was terrifyingly efficient. Lily joined him often, offering ideas and moral support. Together they became a team, not just survivors, but leaders. Their shared experience bonded them in ways words couldn't describe. When one felt doubt creeping in, the other stepped up to provide reassurance. "You really think we can hold out until help arrives?" Lily asked one evening as they reviewed plans for upgrading the station's power grid. "I don't know. Alex admitted. But I do know one thing. If we stop trying, we've already lost. We've got no choice but to keep fighting. Lily smiled faintly. When did you become such an optimist? I'm not, Alex replied with a wry grin. I'm just stubborn. Despite their efforts, tensions ran high among the crew. Supplies were dwindling, tempers flared, and the constant threat of another attack wore everyone down. Some began questioning whether Earth Command would send reinforcements at all. Others whispered about abandoning the station entirely, retreating to safer territory. Alex and Commander Rachel did their best to keep morale intact, but it was a losing battle. Then came the breakthrough. While analyzing the Veilith data, Alex stumbled upon something unexpected, a communication log detailing messages between the Veilith fleet and their home world. Buried within the cryptic symbols was a set of coordinates. At first glance, they seemed meaningless, but Alex realized they pointed to a location deep in uncharted space. What are these? Lily asked, leaning over his shoulder. I think it's where they came from, Alex said slowly. Their base of operations, or maybe even their homeworld. Lily's eyes widened. If we share this with Earth Command, they could launch a counterattack, hit them where it hurts. It's risky, Alex cautioned. We don't know how many ships they have, or what kind of defenses they've got waiting for us. But it's the only advantage we've got. Without hesitation, Alex forwarded the coordinates to Earth Command along with a detailed explanation of their significance. Whether or not anyone acted on the information, he didn't know, but it was worth a shot. A week later, the unthinkable happened. The sensors picked up movement on the edge of the system, not one ship, but dozens. The Veilith had returned, and this time, they weren't holding back. Their fleet stretched across the horizon, a swarm of sleek, menacing vessels glowing with cold blue light. They're here, Alex said quietly, his voice steady despite the dread pooling in his stomach. Commander Rachel stood beside him, her jaw clenched. All hands to battle stations, this is it. As the crew scrambled to prepare, Alex turned to Lily. Whatever happens, stay safe. You too, Lily replied, gripping his arm tightly. Don't do anything stupid. With that, they parted ways, each heading to their assigned posts. The station braced itself for impact. The Veilith wasted no time. Their ships unleashed a barrage of energy beams, overwhelming Delta Station's already weakened shields. Explosions rocked the structure, sending debris flying into space. Alarms screamed, and the air grew thick with smoke and panic. But the humans fought back with everything they had. Weapons fired relentlessly, targeting the largest ships first. Traps detonated, creating chaos among the enemy ranks. For every hit Delta Station took, it dealt 2 in return. Still, it wasn't enough. One by one, the station's defenses crumbled. Shields failed, weapons overheated, and entire sections of the station were destroyed. The end felt inevitable, and then salvation arrived. From the far reaches of the system, a fleet of human ships emerged, sleek, powerful, and bristling with weapons. They formed a protective barrier around Delta Station, engaging the Veilith with devastating precision. Missiles streaked through space, tearing apart alien vessels. Lasers cut through shields, leaving the once invincible Veilith reeling. Earth Command came through, Rachel said, her voice trembling with relief. They actually came. Alex watched in awe as the tide of the battle shifted. The Veilith, caught off guard by the sudden arrival of reinforcements, began to retreat. Their once imposing fleet scattered, fleeing into the void. Within minutes, the immediate threat was neutralized. When the dust settled, Delta Station was barely standing, but it was still standing. Exhausted and battered, the crew gathered in the main hall to celebrate their survival. Alex and Lily stood side by side, watching as Commander Rachel addressed the group. We did it, Rachel said, her voice filled with pride. Against all odds, we held the line. And because of your bravery, humanity has taken its first real step toward protecting itself and the stars. Applause erupted, echoing through the damaged halls of the station. Alex felt a lump rise in his throat. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they refused to give up. Later that night, as Alex gazed out at the stars, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The universe was vast and dangerous, full of wonders and horrors alike. Humanity's journey into the cosmos had only begun, and challenges lay ahead. But for the first time, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. No matter what came next, humanity would face it together. 8 weeks passed after the battle at Delta Station, and life slowly began to return to a semblance of normalcy. The reinforcements from Earth Command had not only driven off the Valith, but also brought much-needed supplies, engineers, and medical teams to repair the damaged outpost. Delta Station was far from perfect. It still bore scars from the attack, but it was functional again. More importantly, it was secure. Alex stood on the observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of space. The view hadn't changed, but everything else had. He thought about the aliens who had captured him, the tests they had put him through, and the lessons he had learned. They had underestimated humanity, assuming that strength came only from technology or physical power. But Alex knew differently. Now humanity's greatest weapon wasn't firepower or shields, it was resilience. No matter how many times they were knocked down, humans found a way to stand back up. Lily joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Alex with a small smile. "Thinking deep thoughts?" "Just wondering what comes next," Alex replied, taking a sip. "We survived this time, but we got lucky. What happens when the next threat shows up? Or the one after that?" Lily leaned against the railing beside him. "We'll figure it out. That's what we do. We adapt, we learn, and we keep moving forward." Alex nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. "I guess you're right. Still, it feels like we're playing catch-up. The Valith are out there somewhere, probably planning their next move. And who knows how many other species are watching us, waiting to see if we're worth noticing or worth destroying." Back on Earth, news of the battle spread quickly. Governments convened emergency meetings, scientists pored over the data recovered from the alien ships, and ordinary people looked to the skies with a mix of wonder and fear. For decades, humanity had dreamed of meeting extraterrestrial life, imagining peaceful exchanges and shared knowledge. Now those dreams felt naive. The universe was vast, yes, but it was also dangerous. If humanity wanted to survive, it would need to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Alex and Lily were summoned to Earth to share their story. Standing before world leaders and top scientists, they recounted every detail of their ordeal, the experiments, the escape, the battle at Delta Station, and the coordinates Alex had discovered. Their words carried weight, not just because of what they had endured, but because of the evidence they provided. The recovered data proved beyond doubt that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that some of its neighbors were hostile. Commander Rachel Lawson accompanied them, her presence lending authority to their account. "This isn't just about Delta Station," she said during one briefing. "It's about all of us. If we don't take steps now to defend ourselves, we risk losing everything." Her warning resonated deeply. Within days, plans were underway to establish a global defense initiative, a coalition of nations working together to protect Earth from future threats. New technologies were developed based on the insights gained from the Valith data, including advanced sensors capable of detecting cloaked ships and weapons designed to disrupt alien systems. Humanity was no longer content to wait and react. It was time to be proactive. For Alex, returning to Earth was bittersweet. On one hand, he was grateful to reunite with his family and friends, who had feared the worst after his disappearance. On the other hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that his journey wasn't over. The universe had changed him, forcing him to confront fears and doubts he hadn't known he had. Now he saw the stars not as distant points of light, but as reminders of both opportunity and danger. He threw himself into the effort to prepare humanity for what lay ahead. Using his experience as a guide, he worked closely with engineers and strategists to develop new tactics and tools. He gave speeches at universities and conferences, sharing his story and urging others to take the threat seriously. His message was simple: humanity couldn't afford to be complacent. You might think this doesn't affect you, he told a crowd of students during one lecture, but it does. Every single one of us has a role to play in protecting our planet. Whether you're building rockets, writing code, or teaching kids about science, you're part of something bigger than yourself. Together we can make sure Earth stays safe. His words inspired many, earning him recognition as a hero. But Alex didn't want fame or glory. All he wanted was to ensure that no one else would have to endure what he and Lily had gone through. Lily, too, found purpose in the aftermath of their ordeal. While Alex focused on defense and strategy, she became an advocate for diplomacy. Her experiences aboard the Vaylith ship had shown her that not all aliens were hostiles, and Ara was proof of that. If humanity hoped to survive in the cosmos, it needed allies as well as weapons. She traveled the world, speaking at international summits and meeting with leaders to promote the idea of peaceful exploration. We can't assume everyone out there is our enemy, she often said. Some may want to help us, just like Zenara helped us. But we'll never know unless we try to understand them. Her efforts weren't always welcomed. Many dismissed her ideas as naive, arguing that humanity should focus solely on self-preservation. But Lily persisted, determined to plant seeds of hope in a world increasingly defined by fear. Months later, Alex returned to Delta Station for one final visit. The outpost had been fully repaired and upgraded, serving as a key hub in humanity's growing network of defenses. As he walked its halls, he felt a sense of pride, not just in what had been accomplished, but in what it represented. Delta Station was proof that humanity could rise to meet any challenge, no matter how daunting. Standing on the observation deck once more, Alex gazed at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vaylith were regrouping, plotting their next move. Other threats lurked in the darkness, unseen but inevitable. Yet Alex felt no fear. Instead, he felt resolve. "We'll be ready," he whispered to himself, a quiet promise to the universe. "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together." As he turned to leave, he glanced back one last time. The stars shimmered brightly, infinite and unknowable. They were beautiful, terrifying, and full of possibility. And for the first time, Alex truly understood what it meant to look at them not with fear, but with determination. Humanity's journey into the stars was just beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Alex knew one thing for certain: humanity would never bow to anyone, not ever.